first of all, after reading the book, it was nice to see the title of your album is "Love Will Be Reborn." Like, okay, Martha's good. She's checking in with everyone. Was this your pandemic album?
Project.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
and then
it was I wouldn't have thought it was a pandemic album, but at the same time, it really did. I think the album is well, I know the album is really about going from quite dark to light,
yeah.
and I'd started writing the songs about 5 years ago, and it was the first record that I made in 5 years. So it's a long time since my last one. It's really like a real true midlife album, really deep, right in the middle of my 40s. And it came out of, a really difficult divorce, and kind of, with everything that entails, with court and all sorts of terribleness, and kind of just really rough, and then finding some really hopeful things at the end, including a new relationship, but also just in general finding a way to sort of shed some of these shed the past a little bit. And then it timed out that I was making it during the pandemic, which made sense. And we were able to, whenever there was kind of a moment where me and the musicians were allowed to be in the same room together, we kind of would go in for 2 or 3 days whenever that was sort of happening on the COVID schedule, depending on what city you're in. And then I was also able to hand it to the producer, who's this incredible producer called Pierre Marchand, Canadian producer. And he was just holed up in his house in the Laurentians, which is this mountain area outside of Montreal. And he just worked on it, and I would send him tracks, that I would record, and he pulled it together, and I think really beautifully. So a lot of, the feeling of the record is, coming out of a difficult time, sort of a spring like feeling. And so that timed well, I think, with how people are wanting to feel and wanting to find that feeling.
And then the book is like the capper to that.
Well,
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think that the book is, really kind of gets into that kind of darker stuff. The book took a long time to write, and really tells the story that a lot of people already know about me, or a story that's been told before by journalists, but in my own words. And I think in my sort of how I sort of, things that I felt were important to say.
And you color in a lot of the, people may know the story, but they don't necessarily know your full vision of the story.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there was a lot. I wrote a lot. It took many years. I wrote a lot down. I took a lot out, because I also was like, I don't really need to say this about this person, or I think we get the gist. If with what was happening, I don't think we need another story with me getting shit faced. Like we got that. We don't need another, example of my, dad not being great. I love him. We know that, so, but I wanted to, I think, touch on things that were many of us on our families have experienced, whether that's divorce and separation, whether that's complicated relationships between siblings, and then some other subjects that I think for women are particularly taboo to talk about, things like abortion and drugs and alcohol and feeling and how you feel about yourself. And so although the book is quite personal, I do think it's a lot of people will, might recognize some of the same, they might hook in on it, in a way where they don't feel it's completely foreign